Spongic X here, and what a way to start off a review. It's trick or treat night, and I got sick, unfortunately, but I still have some energy to do this review. I just got done 100% completing Super Mario Party Jamboree for Nintendo Switch. I was surprised a copy of it for my birthday. Now, Nintendo claimed that this would be their biggest and best Mario Party yet, and while it does have some great highlights and is a good game overall, I strongly disagree with this being the best in the series. I think the original Mario Party trilogy and even Mario Party 5 were a lot better. I even think the other two Mario Party games on Switch were actually better than this. There are some improvements over past entries. Like, one major complaint a lot of people had was, like, every time the star changes locations in the past few games, it's been ridiculously slow, as we have to slowly watch Toadette fly slowly across the board. And so the star placements are a lot faster in this game. However, everything else is a lot slower. The dialogue, and there's even an option to speed up the text, but even then, it's still really slow, especially with the CPU. It's like for one players, they can just button master all of it, and Toad has to over-explain everything in this game, and it makes me wish you'd go back to the early N64 days, where you could skim through the dialogue as fast as you wanted to. It sucks how there's no option to skip it. It's like, yes, you've played these games before, you know how to do everything. Quit reminding us every single time. We're not stupid little kids. So the story of this game is as simple as the series gets. Everyone wants to be the superstar, whatever that means, so they compete to be it. It doesn't try to do anything more creative or unique to spice up the story like some other entries did, like Mario Party 2, where they're competing for the name of a theme park. Since Bowser is rejoining the roster like he did in Super Mario Party, Kamek Koopa turns one of Bowser's toadies into a giant dark aura Bowser named Imposter Bowser. I'm just going to call him IB for short. IB is the game's main antagonist. Kinda clever, since the very first Mario game, many of the Bowser bosses were just different Mario enemies transformed into imposter Bowsers, so it's a fitting way to have Bowser be both a playable character and the game's main villain and obstacle. The game has the biggest roster in the series, but not by much compared to Super Mario Party. We got two new characters to the Party series, including Ninja and Pauline. The way to unlock the two new characters is the dumbest thing. At the Party mode, at the mode selection map, all you have to do is find them in the background. You zoom in with a button and press A on them, and you've unlocked them. At this rate, it makes you wonder why they weren't just on the roster to begin with. It's such a stupid way to unlock them. It was so unnecessary. Would have made more sense if you had to buy them with party points or something. Like I said, there was no reason why they needed to be unlockables at this rate. Unfortunately, not every past character is here, including Blooper, Hammer Bro, Kamek, Dry Bones, Boom Boom, Pom Pom, and worst of all, Diddy Kong. Seriously, they chose Ninja over a fan favorite like Diddy Kong. How sad. This one claims to have the most minigames out of the series, over 110 minigames instead of the usual 60 or 70. But it somehow still feels like a very small selection of minigames, especially in party mode. It doesn't help that many of these special minigames are exclusive to different modes, or they're longer length minigames and separate features. So, while this game does allow the use of Pro controllers, there are also a handful of minigames that require one Joy-Con to use, and these minigames have no reason to forcefully require motion controls. Admittedly, Super Mario Party and Mario Party 8, they had exclusive minigames where their motion controls actually made sense. But here, all of these minigames could have easily been mapped to use a regular controller, and the Joy-Con requirement is very annoying. For some reason, some minigames from the past entries are included, mostly ones from Mario Party 4 or Mario Party 1, but there are barely any of them, so it makes you wonder why they bothered bringing any of these old ones back in the first place. It really feels like a random selection. It made sense in the previous Mario Party because that one was nothing but celebrating past Mario Party games. Here, it just feels kind of forced, and it makes you wonder why they didn't, if they didn't bother bringing back a whole bunch of old ones. So, same with the board maps. They chose one map each from Mario Party 1 and 2 to be remade, while there are 5 original maps in the game. These maps contain Mega Wiggler's Tree Party, which is the simplest and easiest map in the game. It's a bunch of forest life with a giant sleeping Wiggler in the center of it. It even has spaces on its back that you can traverse across, and they can move around and change the path on the board. For its simplicity, this is my favorite map in the game, especially since Mario Party is already frustrating enough as it is, so having the board map that's the least frustrating is pretty fun. Goomba Lagoon has a Goomba-shaped volcano where after a number of turns, the water level either rises or lowers, which can alter the paths of the map, and they can wash players away back to start. It's a decent map with some cool visuals. It was actually the first map I tried out. Roll'em Raceway is such an underwhelming map, but it has a cool gimmick, just terribly executed. We have one based on a racetrack where each player drives in a car to get around. There's an annoying gimmick where the star is on one of two lanes and they alternate every time someone collects one or they land on a happening space, not to mention all the traps around this level that either chase racers away or jump them from one side of the map to another. It just makes this level drag on with no one making any progress because they keep getting sent back. And when I was thinking of a level where you drive around in race cars, I was thinking of a cooler gimmick, like every dice block allowing you to go up from 1 to 20 spaces or something, allowing you to get around a lot faster. And that's another thing I really hate about the modern Mario Party games. I missed it how in the original N64 and GameCube Mario Parties, how the dice block was rapidly fast and it went from 1 to 10. And I loved how the characters actually bashed it open by jumping at it. It was very Mario-like because the way they jump at the brick blocks or the question mark blocks, so the way they roll the dice, and that was really cool. Nowadays, they use a simple 1 to 6 dice block, and they slowly just I miss them smashing the dice block open. I miss being able to move 10 spaces. Admittedly, compared to the previous Switch and Wii entries, the dice block is a little faster this time, but it's still really boring. I miss the old sound effects from Mario Party. Like, I loved like the coin jingle when you collected them. I loved the sound of the dice smashing open. Nowadays, they use very generic sound effects. Rainbow Galleria, I don't know how you pronounce that, but that was my favorite map in the game. It's an idea that I never imagined for a Mario Party board map, but it excited me when I first saw it. It's a giant mall with 3 levels that can be traversed by either escalator or elevator. There are plenty of stores with the cheapest items out of any level, some as low as 1 coin, where most items in the game normally cost 5 coins or more. There is an exclusive item being a markup sticker where you can pass it on to a rival player, and it forces them to pay more when they buy at a shop, but it wears off pretty quickly, luckily. For each item you buy, it gives you more chances of winning a lottery, where if you land near this lottery area, you can win a prize, with the grand prize being the golden warp pipe, which can warp you straight to a star. There's also these 4 stamp stations around the board map where stopping by one of these grants you a stamp on a stamp sheet. If you bring back one of these stamps at the start of the level, they can be exchanged for a few coins, and if you bring back all of them at once, you get an even bigger prize. It kind of reminds me of the game Fortune Street, how it's like a Monopoly clone, but there are those like 4 spaces where when you travel through them, you get like a big point bonus. It was also used in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep during their, I can't remember what it was called. Was it Dream Board? But the little board game function that was basically just Fortune Street, but with Kingdom Hearts and Disney characters. So this is the most fun board in the game, actually. While I do love the Wiggler map for its simplicity, I'd actually say this is actually the most fun map. It's just got a never-before-seen setting for Mario Party. It's very fun and unique with its gimmicks. Too bad the default 10-turn limit really holds the stage back. You should at least raise it to 20 turns or more, or otherwise it'll be too short to the point where how little the dice blocks can move you in this game, you won't be able to see everything that this level has to offer with its rewards and all that. So the new final level is King Bowser's Keep, a conveyor belt level that changes directions. IB stands in the center of the stage, and every once in a while he breathes fire, creating more Bowser spaces. This map has the most brutal Bowser spaces. For players with stars who land on it may have a chance where Bowser skips the roulette entirely and just skips ahead of stealing a star. This map does have a very unique gimmick that ties in with the Bowser spaces. For every star and coin that IB takes from us, he locks it away in a vault, and it requires a 2-digit password that players who land near the cell can try guessing the combination. And if they crack it, they can claim all of the prizes inside that Bowser has stolen. It is a challenging level, but a very fun one. One of the 2 returning levels is Mario's Rainbow Castle from Mario Party. It's overall very well remade, with prettier visuals and surprisingly well remade music, unlike all the other music in modern Mario Party games. Playing the last Mario Party game just sounded like sabotage when listening to the remade music of the minigames and board maps, because unlike the original Mario Party trilogy where they had some pretty good music in that, this one It's like ever since like I'd say the GameCube era, the music in these Mario Party games have just been very bland. It's like there's no soul or passion into it. It's just very generic kid music. And so it was actually surprising to hear one remade music track that actually sounds pretty faithful to the original. And it has the inclusions of the item system that was introduced in Mario Party 2. So since Mario Party 1 had no items, it's kind of cool to see how they placed them into this version. And just like the tower gimmick, it actually rotates between the Koopa store and the Kamek store, so that was really cool. Where each of those stores sells different kinds of items. Where the Koopa one mostly sells items that will help you, where Kamek usually has items that are more for sabotaging other players. Unfortunately, this stage still has that really annoying gimmick of the rotating tower that'll either contain Toad with a star or Imposter Bowser, who will steal 20 coins from you. I do like how when the tower spins to IB, the level turns dark and stormy, something that did not happen in the original game, and it's a really cool way to spice this level up. So this is a level I've always loved yet hated at the same time. I love the visuals and music, but I hate how long the looping path of this level is, and it makes it all the more frustrating when you wasted so much time traversing it just to end up meeting IB or Bowser instead. Finally, there's Western Land from Mario Party 2. This was one of my favorite board maps along with Pirate Land in the original Mario Party. So the train that can give players a ride either forward or backward while ramming any players in the way back to start, that's still in here. It still uses the skeleton keys for shortcuts, and surprisingly the skeleton key is only used for 2 maps in this game instead of like every level like in Mario Party 2 and 3. This and King Bowser's Keep are the only levels to use the skeleton keys. It even includes the Wiggler's Milk Bar, where you can spend coins to warp players over to the bar, a good strategy for pulling players away who are close to the star. In the original game, it costs 30 coins to summon everyone over. This game does things a little differently. It's cheaper and only costs 10 coins, but it'll only summon one random player, making it more of a gamble. Or you can pay 20 coins to have everyone sent over at once. So either way, you save either 10 or 20 coins. Also, it's really cool how they add an animation where it actually shows the characters sitting down and drinking a glass of milk, and they're just enjoying each other's company. That was a really nice touch. I love this level, but I hate how there's 2 boo stations, like one on the upper left of the map and one not too far from the center east of the map. It's very frustrating if you have the most coins or stars, and you have other players ganging up on you and stealing all of your hard work. It is not fun. I swear, this game is so biased against player 1. A decent board selection overall, with only one map I didn't really care for, but I'm dying to see a Mario Party game that contains at least 10 or more maps instead of a low number like 6 or 7. I loved how the first game had a map to represent each character. We even had one that represented Bowser and a true final level for all your hard work. And I wish they would bring that back into the series. It's hard to believe that that was the only game in the series to really do that. This game took me 18 hours to unlock everything, excluding achievements and top rankings. Playing through the game not only unlocks your party points, which you can exchange for rewards, but every achievement you unlock adds a milestone to your party ranking, where every milestone unlocks more stuff to buy at a plaza shop, and reaching certain ranks unlocks the final 3 boards, which are the 2 remade boards and the Bowser map. The rewards in this game are very underwhelming. I really like the rewards better in like the original 2 Mario Parties. I was able to buy them all in this game just by playing every single mode in this game at least once, and it took only 18 hours, and it left me wishing for more and better unlockables. All you can buy in this game are reaction emojis for party mode, along with stickers and backgrounds for a feature that allows you to stamp characters and item stickers over a background and make simple, limited images. I wish the game had more exciting rewards, like costume pieces to customize the players. Heck, just getting another Mario Party with the costume party gimmick would be great. With a series that contains about 18 entries, it's sad how only Mario Party 2 was the only one that allowed the characters to dress up in outfits that fit the map's theme, and I really wish they would bring that back. I think a better reward instead of those stupid stickers would have been 3D models that we could use to set on a background or something. Kind of like how in Super Smash Bros. Brawl or Wii U it'll let you do that. That was a kind of a fun feature. Instead, we get these boring stock art stickers that have been used in so many Mario games previously. I swear the rewards in this game are just the exact same ones that we got in the past 2 entries. and it is very tiring. I would love to get a future Mario Party game where the rewards are actually surprising and fun. Imagine if we got a Mario Party game that actually allowed us to create our own board maps, and you have to unlock pieces by playing through the regular game to get that stuff. We could use it to customize our own board maps, allowing us to draw out the shape and paths of the board. We can choose which spaces we want where, along with decorating the map with props, objects, trees, warp pipes, NPCs, and more. The fact that Nintendo still has not made a custom board maker for Mario Party after all these decades, it still baffles me. The game does have one of the most unique story modes. Instead of forcing us to go through each board map and beat each level, which is very unfair due to the luck-based requirement in Mario Party, or being forced to beat every mini-game, we get a more open choice challenge that doesn't require collecting everything to progress, and it doesn't require beating every minigame on the map. It lets us choose which ones we want to play in. So we get to freely explore the board maps in this game, allowing you to go in any direction without a dice roll. It feels like the story mode for Mario Party Advance, except, more free. It doesn't force you to have to land on spaces based on a dice roll. So it feels like that, but done right. As we run around the board, we interact with NPCs to collect mini-stars. So it was kind of shocking to see the mini-stars from Mario Party 9 return, and I like their use better here because I do prefer the coins, but having the mini-stars be used for a story mode, that's kind of a nice way to make a little callback. So you need 30 of these mini-stars to advance to the next level. Many NPCs have fetch quests that involve you searching across the map to find items laying around, which sometimes require you to interact with other NPCs to do favors, never-ending chain of, doing one favor for another to get one favor done. You can also find Lakitu in each of these levels, and he'll quiz you with 10 questions based on the map you're on. And each question answered will earn you a mini-star. And you don't have to do all the questions at once, making it very easy. You'll also find NPCs of the playable characters around the map. They involve you having to compete in a showdown minigame, which I'll talk more about later. So you compete in these showdown minigames, and if you beat your opponents in this, you'll have that partner join you in helping you at taking down the boss at the end of each level. So there are 4 characters to befriend in each level, but only 3 of them can join you in the boss fight. So you at least need to rescue 3, but if you do rescue every character, you get like this little stake. It's basically like a little toothpick with a character's hat or something on top of it, and so you can use that as a decoration later in the game. So at the end of each level, a boss appears, and he steals your mini-stars, forcing you to have to team up with 3 allies to take it down and reclaim the mini-stars. I'll discuss these mini-games towards the end of the video when I go over each and every mini-game. Certain objectives in the story mode give you decorations to redecorate the main menu plaza of the game. You can talk to Kamek back at the plaza to decorate. Honestly, the rewards for decorating are very underwhelming, and they're not very fun or exciting at all. An interesting addition to the game is the inclusion of pro rules. I've had yet to try them out, but it sounds very promising. It finally rewards players who are sick of the unlucky turn of events that always seem to punish players who are doing such a good job throughout, while rewarding CPU with luck. So this mode gets rid of the pesky chance time spaces. Honestly, I hate those even more than the Bowser spaces. And it gets rid of the boo spots, so your coins and stars can no longer be stolen. However, Bowser spaces still exist. The game even lets you know ahead of time what the bonus stars at the end will be, allowing you to strategize to try claiming them in the end. Whether they involve landing on the most of a certain space, traveling the least amount of spaces. I haven't tried Pro Mode yet, but I wanted to see how each level could be played by its default rules. But anytime I plan on revisiting this game, I am sticking with Pro rules from now on, because I am tired of losing everything I worked hard for. I feel like if I were playing every game of Mario Party, I would have won, but the CPU always ruin it by chance time or the boos. So every CPU is just rigged to roll high dice blocks. They get rare items like crazy, while the game kept giving me 1 to 3 dice rolls and no item spaces. Yet I kept winning the most minigames, collecting the most coins, only for those CPU to leech everything from me. Bowser Kaboom Squad is a very fun multiplayer mode. It's like a raid boss fight, and it was obviously made for online play in mind, but it still offers single player with CPU or local multiplayer options. Now this mode requires players to team up and run around 1 of 3 flat 3D maps. It requires 9 players, as we avoid imposter Bowser and his minions. So getting attacked by IB or his minions can lead to a player getting trapped in a bubble, requiring one of the other players to need to be a hero and save them with the tap of a button. The mode really requires teamwork, as players need to work together to smash open crates, grab bombs, which you can only carry up to 2 at a time, but there is a power-up that can allow you to carry 4 at a time, and you have to bring them back to a cannon at the home base. 20 bombs are required to attack IB. He has a lot of HP, and it will take a lot of time to defeat him. So every once in a while, IB will target a nearby player with a reticle, and he'll start chasing them, preparing an attack. The targeted player can either use the opportunity to lure IB away from the other players as they're busy gathering bombs and loading them up, or you can risk having him ram through a bomb crate to open them faster. This is a very risky move, though. It's best recommended to do it when no other players are around, since it can cause Bowser to destroy the bombs and knock out everyone in the process. So just make sure not to lure him over to recently opened crates, or all of those bombs your team worked hard on will be destroyed. Occasionally, coins spawn on the map, and collecting 100 of them allows a temporary bonus time to activate, where the bombs turn into gold bombs, with each of the bombs' attack power being doubled, and it's a real key to defeating IB. After a few minutes, a round will end, and we're forced to play exclusive minigames that requires all of the players to work together cooperatively. We get ranked at the end of each minigame from a rank of, I think it was D to S, based on how synchronized the team was at getting the best scores. These ranks will lead to a selection of better, higher tier items that can assist us in the next round. These items can range from drop items like a heart, which can restore a player who's trapped in a bubble without needing to rely on another player to free them, banana peels to trip IB, a lightning bolt to stun IB and his minions, springs which can send players back to the base. That really comes in handy when you're trying to bring bombs back faster or trying to dodge IB's attacks. There's a bell which a player can ring to distract Bowser, great for distracting him if a bunch of players are about to get attacked. There are speed pads that can be spread around, great for delivering bombs faster and dodging enemy attacks quicker. My favorite go-to power-ups are the hammers, which can damage crates faster. But if a number of players already chose the hammer, I'll usually try grabbing another item that can assist in other ways. It's best to strategize to not have every player grab the same item. You want to have at least one person in charge of another item because it could really come in handy. However, the items will disappear by the next minigame, so you want to make sure you use it before it becomes useless. So overall, this is a challenging raid-styled mode that won't guarantee a victory, but it feels so satisfying when all that time leads to a victory, but it will feel so disappointing if all that time leads to an unrewarding defeat. Each win gives you a rank up, or it gives you experience to rank up, and so there's no reward if you lose. There is no real reward for ranking up to the maximum level, but there likely will be a useless achievement. But there are easier and quicker achievements to get in this game, so there's no point in wasting your time trying to grind to get the best score in this mode. Just play it to have fun, not to grind to get the highest rank. At least try it out, though. I have yet to play this mode online, but based on the CPU sessions I've played on each map, I can tell this is a really fun online feature. Koopathlon is another great mode with the largest player count in any Mario Party games, as 20 players compete at once to race around a board-themed race where we compete in exclusive minigames that involve collecting a huge number of coins, and each coin collected equals up to one step on the racetrack. So all these minigames are single-player only. So whoever reaches the finish line first is the winner. Every once in a while, IB attacks with an elimination-based minigame where only a few may be lucky enough to survive, and the losers are forced to move back 30 spaces. I've never won a single IB minigame, but I still managed to win every game of this mode I played. So it's basically an online multiplayer clone of a mode from Mario Party Star Rush and Super Mario Party, but it's still very fun. I love the minigames where it just showers you with coins that help you progress to win. It's a very fun and addicting novelty. We also got some side modes with longer length minigames that require one or more Joy-Con with motion control gimmicks. Paratroopa Sky School is a fun idea, but the wonky motion controls kind of ruin it, and you can only play as Mario or Luigi, depending on if you're playing single or two-player. This mode forces you to hold a Joy-Con in each hand, as you have to spread out your arms and flap them like a bird to control Mario as he equips these giant wings on his arm. So it's kind of like Pilot Wings Resort meets Super Mario Bros. This mode has different side modes, including the free flight mode, which allows players to just freely fly around for fun with no time limits or objectives. We got Sky Travel, where we have to race against Luigi to collect the most Parabeetles before time runs out. It's honestly hard to steer with the motion controls, making me wish it had just regular control options. You can also steal all the beetles that Luigi collected just by flying behind him and running into the beetles. However, Luigi can steal all of yours as well. It's honestly a really cheap move that I wish wasn't in the game, period. The second Sky School mode is the best feature, where it's a flying clone of Crazy Taxi called Koopa Paratroopa Taxi, where 1 to 2 players have to work together as Mario and Luigi hold one side of a giant basket, as we have to work together to keep our balance and steer to pick up passengers and fly them to their destinations without dropping them or running out of time. Luckily, I've never come to the risk of dropping any of the players. It's a fun challenge, and on hard mode, it requires you to collect more than just like a select number. It tries challenging you to collect every character on the map. I was only able to deliver all but one, but it was enough for me to still get a 4.5 out of 5-star ranking. It's a fun mode, but it's limited by the motion control gimmick, along with not allowing you to play as any character we want. It would have been fun to be able to fly around as Bowser, for instance, so I wish the passengers were more randomly generated and placed each time instead of being stationed at the same spot, the same characters, and having the same destination requirement each time. I wish it was more random. Toad's Item Factory is a fun motion control gimmick minigame that once again requires 2 Joy-Cons. In my opinion, this is one of the best side features out of like these Joy-Con minigames. So we have to navigate a ball through an obstacle course, and the only way to move the ball is by moving each Joy-Con to control these pink and blue objects. So this can also be a lot easier if you're playing with 2 players, I can imagine. That way you have one person controlling a certain lever instead of having to activate both at once, because it does become a pretty tough juggling act eventually. There are 10 acts altogether, each containing 3 levels within, with each level containing a different colored ball, and at the end of each act, we see the balls meet up in a machine as they get processed into one of the Mario Party items we can find across these games' board maps. It's a fun novelty as you try guessing which item you'll get based on the 3 colored balls. These objects change within each round, ranging from slide panels that require moving the Joy-Cons up or down to move, which we can use to either rise or lower the balls like ramps or slopes, or hit the ball upwards, kind of like launching a pinball. Other rounds contain rotating the Joy-Cons to rotate these flippers, which can once again be used either as ramps, or we can swing them like a bat and launch it around like a game of pinball. There's also these fans, which require us to rotate the Joy-Cons like we're using a beater to bake, So we use them to operate these fans to blow the ball upward or sideways through the course. Finally, there's the suck cannons, where we rotate the Joy-Cons again to suck the ball into a cannon, as we tilt the Joy-Cons to aim and fire the balls across the board. The levels get progressively really hard. It starts off pretty easy, but it gets really challenging as it goes along, including some that require switching between different control methods all at once. And the final levels, oh man, those are pretty lengthy. Luckily, there are no lives or time limits, but the later levels do have moments where one wrong move may require the ball to respawn back at the beginning. They're not very long maps, though, but it still takes a lot of time and patience to get the ball from one end to another. So having it respawn is kind of tiring, but it's not frustrating. It requires a lot of patience, strategy, quick thinking, and reflexes, but it's a very fun challenge. It's at least much easier and less annoying than that Donkey Kong mode from Nintendo Land. Again, this easily could have been played with analog sticks, but it's the most enjoyment I've gotten out of the motion control required minigames. Rhythm Kitchen is a clone of that dumb rhythm-based mode from Super Mario Party, where all the minigames require perfect timing to the sounds going on in the minigames. It's like we're doing food prep in a kitchen, so we're dealing with all these oversized food items. I feel like these are very faulty minigames. I just don't feel like the rhythm matches with the action in these minigames. I can never get into the rhythm. The timing feels off, and there are other rhythm games that I'm pretty good at. I loved Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memories. I love Samba de Amigo. Meanwhile, the CPU are programmed to never mess up, so it makes you feel like a dumbass when you make one little mistake, and it feels like you're holding your whole team back. It's like Nintendo is shaming you for not being able to do everything perfectly. There's no reason this needed to be a motion control-based minigame series either. We also have the typical minigame mode where we can play all of the minigames on their own. So all these minigames are available to begin with, unlike previous early Mario Party minigames where you had to unlock them by either playing them or buying them first. The boss minigames need to be unlocked either through the story mode or unlocking them by playing the boss rush mode, which I don't know how you unlock boss rush mode, but I was able to unlock it before I even tried the story mode. The side modes on Minigame Island can easily be ignored. We got daily missions where each day a collection of 3 events can be played with either CPU or online players. Each event contains 3 minigames where 2 out of 3 wins. Yet even if one player wins the first 2 stars, it still forces us to play for a 3rd star for no reason. This mode is a complete waste of time, especially with online play. All that waiting around in a waiting room for a connection with 3 players just for 3 measly minigames that give you a few measly Mario Party points. If you really want to play online, just stick with Party Mode, Koopathlon, or Bowser's Kaboom Squad. Survival Mode is an even more useless online mode. It's online required, and it has a ranking mode where whoever wins the most minigames without losing lives will win and be added to a high score meter. However, it requires playing with other players, and it only lets you play one minigame at a time. So you've got to go through a waiting room and a connection every time you want to try this mode. Every time you win or lose a minigame, it disconnects from the internet, forcing you to start all over if you want to keep playing. It tries encouraging you to keep playing and raise your rank to the highest tier and score. I only played this once, and I did win though, but I had no interest in going forward with this. It just felt like a waste of time. I don't know what kind of sane person would want to waste their time or life on such an unrewarding mode. It would have been better to be an offline tournament mode where you just keep playing minigames until you lose. It's the most forgettable mode in the game. Tag Match is basically a clone of the daily challenge mode, where each character is riding on wave bikes and whoever wins best 2 out of 3 wins the race, but this time all the minigames are strictly 2 versus 2 minigames randomly selected, and there's not a whole lot in the game, so it's a pretty underwhelming mode. This was the only online mode that I tried where I could not get a single match. No one wanted to play this mode apparently, and I'm not surprised. It's just as underwhelming as the other modes in Minigame Island. Showdown mode is a gauntlet of exclusive character-themed minigames called Showdown minigames, but once again, I'll discuss more of those in the minigames section. Boss Rush mode is easily the best of these modes, where we play a gauntlet of the game's boss fights, and whoever gets the highest score in each fight wins. These fights are very similar to the boss minigames introduced in Mario Party 9, but arguably a lot better, complete with rewarding bonus points with whoever gave the last hit. I'll discuss more of these over with each minigame later on. So overall, the minigames in this are a very mixed bag. There are some pretty good ones, but a lot of really bad, stupid luck-based minigames. But worst of all, minigames that drag on way too long. This has some of the lengthiest, most dragged out minigames out of any Mario Party game, and I dread them every time they're picked. So starting off with the 4-player minigames, we have Lumber Tumble, where Shy Guys try chasing us with giant logs and try pushing us off a wooden bridge. As we run away, the last one standing wins. It's surprisingly tricky, but I never lost a single time during this minigame, but I've had some very close calls, because these Shy Guys end up moving really fast towards the end. I think even if you lose at the end, if you're the last one standing, you'll win regardless, but it's still fun to try to see how far you can go. So I wish this game let us jump, but unfortunately this minigame does not allow us to jump. We're just forced to run. It's overall a pretty fun challenge. Big Top Quiz, I think, was the first minigame I got to play in this game, and it's a simple minigame where 3 toads roll around on a ball with a picture of a character on it, and we're led to questions involving these characters, like which character was there more or less of, which character wasn't included, or which ball did a certain toad have. It's very similar to past Spot the Difference minigames and past entries. It's not bad, but it feels overdone, and this isn't the only minigame like this in the entire game. Camera Ready. How many Mario Party minigames have involved a camera in the past? This is the best out of 3 games where each character has a camera and a park setting, and they have to look at a photo of characters and try finding the exact locations where these pictures were taken, and we have to take a picture that matches closest to the center picture. This not only requires finding the location, but waiting for certain characters to either appear or wait for a certain motion for them, but you gotta look out for other characters so they don't interrupt the shot. It's a fun minigame, but another done-before premise in other Mario Party games. Scarousel is a death trap obstacle course where we have to hop over boos, a chain chomp, and avoid electric barriers as the merry-go-round tries pulling players into these electric barriers. The last one standing wins. It's a pretty fun minigame. I wouldn't say it's really hard, but it's still pretty fun. Snag the Flags, a fun minigame where we run around a Mario Galaxy-styled sphere. As we run around this globe, we try to claim the most flags. I've never lost a single game of this, but I always have fun with it. Sandwiched, a fun yet challenging one where we're trapped in a picnic basket from a top-down perspective, as square sandwiches fall from the sky and we have to try not getting crushed by them. Luckily, this minigame does allow us to jump, and keeping high ground is a good strategy. But with all the action going on, it's easy to lose track of the shadows from above, which can lead to you easily getting crushed. It's a madhouse, but a fun one. Hot Cross Blocks. This one really sucks. It's one of my most hated minigames in this one. I mean, it really sucks, and it drags on the longest. Some of these minigames really needed time limits. This also ranks into a genre of minigames I absolutely can't stand. I think these kind of minigames were introduced since Mario Party 9. It's those type where it gives players multiple choice options for items you need to win, but if more than one player selects the same item, neither of them will progress. So it's just a really bad guessing game that drags on way too long. In this minigame, we're surrounded by lava and we have to pick a group of square tiles to progress. The problem is that most often the CPU or other players will end up picking the one that you're eyeing, causing no one to progress. You try picking the dumb one that you think no one else will pick, yet somehow the stupid CPU pick it as well. It's a long-ass minigame with a lot of waiting around and progression being cancelled out. It's a very dumb luck minigame, and these are the worst, especially the ones that never end. Light Wave Battle. Each player has to ground pound to create shock waves. Getting hit 3 times eliminates the player. Last one standing wins. It's a chaotic minigame with a gamble on whether you should risk jumping or doing a ground pound. Since ground pounds kind of take a little bit of time to recover, but it is required to win. It gets pointless if you're down to just 2 players, since chances are they'll be evenly matched, and so you just have to keep jumping on the shockwaves until time runs out. Or you'll have to keep jumping over the shockwaves until time runs out. It's basically just a 4-player variant of those 1 versus 3 minigames as seen in Mario Party 3 or 4, where one player has to ground pound on water to create splashes and knock the others out. It's a fun idea, but kind of flawed in execution. Now, on to some of the 4-player motion control minigames, which require 1 Joy-Con to play. The game gives you the option to play without the motion control minigames, but I wanted to try out each minigame at least once, so I originally played with Joy-Cons, but now that I've seen every minigame in this, I don't plan on ever going back with the faulty Joy-Cons again. Night Lights is a very basic minigame where we just rotate our arms clockwise. We have to do it fast and repeatedly to cause the character to light up these lights at Peach's castle. It's pretty, but it's way too basic to stand out. It's as boring as the track events from Mario and Sonic Olympic crossover games. Tilt-A-Golf is another simple novelty that we've seen in nearly every Wii game that requires motion controls. We tilt a board around to move a ball into a goal. It's been done to death in the Wii era, but this one at least spices it up by not being a maze and actually resembles a golf course, complete with sand traps that we want to avoid. It may be overdone, but it's harmless, kind of fun. So back to some of the 4-player minigames, the regular ones. Granite Getaway, one of my favorite minigames. Someone at Nintendo must have watched the boulder scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark and thought, make this into a Mario Party minigame. We get chased by a giant boulder through a temple as we try not to trip over the rocks or ruins, so anyone who makes it out without getting crushed wins. It's a thrilling challenge, and luckily it didn't go Crash Bandicoot on us and place cheap cliff falls that can't be seen ahead of time. 3-Throw, a remake of the Mario Party 4 minigame where we shoot basketballs through a set of 3 moving basketball hoops, with the golden ones in the center being the hardest to reach but worth the most points. Whoever's ball lands in a hoop, it stays stuck there throughout the entire minigame, preventing other players from scoring off that same hoop when the hoop comes back around over time. It was fun in Mario Party 4, and it still is. Domination, another minigame remade from Mario Party 4, except it's a bad one. It's another generic button masher. We rapidly smash the A button to summon Whomps and knock them over like dominoes, and whoever creates the longest trail of Whomps wins. When will game developers learn that players do not want to bust their thumbs, crick their necks, and lose breath over damn button mashers? I still have nightmares from Mecha Marathon and Push the Lead Out. They're just bottom of the barrel minigames. Hot Hot Hop, another Madhouse minigame where we not only have to jump over a fire bar moving in the center, but we also have to dodge these giant magmars that charge at us. It's challenging yet fun. I can't remember if this was a past minigame from a previous entry, but it's still a pretty fun, chaotic one. Cold Front, another crazy survival one, where Typhus try blowing us off the stage as we try running away from their blows. It's another one that requires luck and skill. Thwomp the Difference, another Spot the Difference minigame where we have to guess which fruit is the odd one out. The first one to answer gets the most points. However, all these images are being blocked off by thwomps, and you have to wait a bit of time for the thwomps to move to get the full image. It's okay, but I wish it was a little bit shorter. It could have used less rounds. Hammer at Home. So back to some of the motion control minigames. In this one, we have to hold either ZL or ZR to charge up our hammer and swing it to hammer these nails. The longer nails requires longer charges, so the one to pound the most nails in wins. It's okay, I guess, but why is it motion control only? Twist and Sort. We tilt the Joy-Cons to rotate these flippers to try sorting cheaper bloopers into their respective sides. It's a minigame that's been done before, but without motion controls. It's okay, but it had no reason to be motion control exclusive. Shuttle Scuttle. We hold a button to accelerate a shuttle and tilt in directions to avoid getting zapped. Getting zapped twice makes you lose. It's an okay challenge, but once again, why the motion controls? Tiny Triathlon, one of the few motion-controlled minigames where the motion controls actually work well in its favor. We race through 3 events as we shake the Joy-Con up and down to paddle through a pool. We wriggle the Joy-Con like handlebars to ride a tricycle, just like that one event from Super Mario Party. And finally, we swing the Joy-Con upward to jump over hurdles. It's a fun one, but too bad it can't be played without motion controls as an option. Pickaxe Dash, another repetitive motion-controlled one very similar to minigames that are already in this one. We just swing the Joy-Con rapidly up and down to pickaxe out of a cave. First one out wins. We already have a number of events like this with the same objective. Why disguise it? No one is being fooled. Gatekeepers. Oh, this is another one of my most hated minigames in this. It's another luck-based minigame that drags on forever. Each player takes turns picking a differently shaped key to try to see if it will open one of 3 doors. This event goes on forever, and it takes dumb luck to win. Well, Nintendo just quit it with the pick a straw or rock, paper, scissors minigames. They all freaking suck. Sled to the Edge. It's a game of chicken, but it requires strategy. We watch 2 toads sled racing, and we have to watch closely over which toad pulled on the brakes the earliest, for the other toad will be late for pulling the brakes, causing him to fall off the edge, and whoever halts the closest to the edge without falling off wins. The key isn't to pay attention to the toads, but more pay attention to the penguins in the background, noticing how close the first toad pulls the brakes depending on which set of penguins he's closest to. For instance, if the toad didn't fall off of the ledge that began breaking off right at a platform where there's 3 penguins on it, you got to be on a lookout for the area where the 3 penguins were. It requires photographic memory and good timing. I hated it when I first played it because I didn't quite understand how to judge which toad is going to break first, but after replaying it and picking up on that little background detail, it made the minigame more enjoyable. Rinks to Riches. It's a simple coin collecting minigame where we steer in a slippery, oversized ice skate and we collect the most coins. I was always a sucker for the minigames that involve us just running around and keeping what we collect, so this one gets a pass. Trampoline. A tricky one involving hopping on ants to avoid the spiked ones. The last one standing wins. What makes this one tricky is that it's easy for other opponents to hop on you and plunge you into the spiked ant, so it's very chaotic and very unpredictable. Stamp Out. One of my favorite Mario Party 4 minigames, and to this day I still never lost at it. We hop around on a giant blank book page as we ride around on these giant stamps, and we try covering the book page with the most stamps for our colors. Basically Splatoon before it was a thing. So you have to hold the jump button a little bit before release to get more ground. So rapidly tapping the A button will not get you anywhere, and holding it for too long will cause you to lose time. You gotta find the right amount to get around faster and wider. Platform Peril. A remade Mario Party 1 classic, but made a lot easier, and it's turned into a coin collecting minigame this time around, unlike the original where it just had a few coins floating there that you could try risk getting. This one is full of more coins. You can collect up to like 30 coins in this minigame if you're lucky. The platforms are a lot wider and easier to hop across, and there's a lot more coins. It doesn't matter if you do make it to the end or fall off, all that matters is that you collect as many coins as you can. While I rarely ever had problems with this minigame in the first place, I can understand that the platforms were way too tricky for many young gamers, or many casual gamers for that matter, so I can respect Nintendo for taking notice and trying to make it more accessible for younger gamers. Treasure Divers, another remade Mario Party classic, as we tap to swim and dive downward as we race to collect these treasure chests, and we have to bring them back up to the top while avoiding sharks and bloopers. The biggest treasure chests are the heaviest, but they are the key to collecting the most coins, and I loved it before and I still love it to this day. Treetop Treasure, the last 4-player minigame, where we jump between these 2 wooden seesaws and try collecting these coins that spawn under the tree's leaves. It's a fun one that takes luck and skill, as we have to rely on jumping, controlling the elevation on the side of the seesaws without falling off. Falling off doesn't eliminate you, but it does cost you a bit of time. I overall enjoyed it. On to 1 vs 3. I never really was a big fan of 1 vs 3 minigames, though there are some good ones out there, but most of them in this one are pretty bad. Sunset Standoff, another genre of annoying minigames, involving the ones where one player has a number of turns needed to eliminate all 3 opponents within a number of turns, and this one requires the single player to knock out all the players within 5 rounds as they steer a giant bonsai bill and try ramming the other players. So the single player can only move left and right across 3 lanes. It sucks no matter what side you're on, whether you're steering the bullet or dodging it. The game just takes too long, and it takes a lot of dumb guessing luck. So during one game where I was on the 3-player side, I could have won if the CPU weren't brain dead stupid. They didn't bother splitting up to strategize. Instead, they kept following me, causing them all to get eliminated if the bullet happened to be targeting me. So I hate these kinds of minigames, and unfortunately isn't the only kind of game like this in this game. Cookie Cutters. It's a fun one, no matter which side you're on. It's a button pattern minigame requiring us to cut out the most cookies. We get 3 cookie cutters, each coded to one of the 3 buttons, as we press the buttons based on which matching shape pops up first. The single player has to cut all 3 types of cookies on their own, while the 3-player team is each assigned 1 cutter and 1 button, and they have to wait their turn to cut out the cookie, requiring teamwork. I've never lost this minigame, yet I still have fun every time it's picked. It's the best 1 vs 3 minigame in this, in my opinion. Unfriendly Flying Object. The single player steers a UFO as they drop these spiked platforms and try crushing the other 3 players as they try dodging them. It's very unpredictable no matter what side you're on. It can be very easy for the CPU to dodge the spiked platforms, but it is possible to have them cornered, making it impossible for them to escape as you try crushing them. It's equally as challenging no matter which side you're on, but most often it feels like the 3-player team has the greater advantage. Lost and Pound, the absolute worst 1 vs 3 minigame, and it's another one of the worst minigames in Jamboree. It's a clone of that shitty hide-and-seek minigame from Mario Party 3, where a player has to choose one of 4 hiding spots as the team of 3 have to guess where the hider is. Unlike hide-and-seek, which had to go through 3 rounds until the hider gets spotted once, this one requires you to find the hider 3 times. It is possible for the CPU to pick the same spot, and if the hider gets found, that means that they automatically lose if all the CPU pick the exact same spot, as the single player will get hit by a hammer 3 times and lose. This one takes forever. It's just boring and frustrating. Even the rare chances where I won this minigame, it still felt underwhelming. It just wasn't worth all that time waiting and guessing. I growl whenever this minigame gets picked, along with the other dumb luck waiting games. Arch Rivals. This one, for no reason, requires motion controls, but only for the 3 players. It's very similar to that archery minigame from Mario Party 2. The single player has a bow and arrow, but instead of eliminating the other 3 players, the 3 players are holding these targets, and they have to tilt the Joy-Cons to try tilting the target to prevent the single player from scoring 100 points. The archer keeps auto-scrolling from left to right, and the bow shoots at a very odd angle at the very left or right every time it gets close to them, making it very hard to hit the left or right targets. I've only ever been the archer, yet I somehow won every time, and it didn't take long either. Either way, it's a boring and frustrating minigame with some pretty bad controls. Blame It on the Crane. I can't remember which one, but I know this was a minigame from a previous entry, and it's not a very good one. The single player controls a crane, while the 3 players run around in plastic balls. Player 1 has to grab all 3 players under a time limit while avoiding the Shy Guys. The crane moves incredibly slow, along with grabbing incredibly slow. It's very tricky to grab some of the moving players, and the time limit is pretty strict. Meanwhile, the 3 players don't get very much mobility, and they're stuck on a rotating conveyor. I really don't care for this one, but I'll at least say it's better than the crane games from the first 2 Mario Party games. At least it doesn't require button mashing. Incoming Stream, another one that forces motion controls where it shouldn't need it in the first place. It's a clone of the Mario Party 3 minigame where one player steers a boat to try hogging all the coins, while the 3 players are skiing behind and have to collect any remaining scraps. The only difference is that player 1 steers Plessy, and we have to use pointless motion controls. Cage Catch, another minigame that feels very similar to a Mario Party 3 one. This one is very similar to the Spotlight Search game, where one player swims in the water while the other 3 have to shine their spotlights at the player all at once. This one doesn't allow the single player to dive underwater, so each of the 3 players gets to control a different part of a giant cage that we try using to capture the swimmer. So one player controls the horizontal movement, one the vertical movement, and one has to press a button to drop the cage at the right time. It's a slow and boring minigame no matter what side you're on. You just gotta pray that you don't get paired with brain-dead CPU. Bruiser Bash, a very one-sided minigame where chances are if you're the single player, you're gonna win this one. So we hold A to accelerate and hold either L or R to change directions as we control this giant bruiser machine. We have to punch out all of the other 3 opponents. So controlling the bruiser is kind of fun, but this minigame is no fun for the 3 players. On again, off again. Another repetitive one where one player activates an on and off switch to activate these red and blue platforms while trying to drop these grolls to bowl over the other 3 players. I rarely ever lost when this minigame gets picked, especially when I'm on the 3 player side. Either way, I find both sides of this minigame pretty boring and overdone. Snow Brawl, an annoying minigame where one player is paired with 4 Ukikis in a snowball fight versus the other 3 players. One player has to hit all the 3 players, but if the single player is hit, they lose. It's honestly a frustrating minigame. I hated it in Mario Party 6 and I still hate it. Snowball Summit was a much more fun idea of this. Squeaky Shakedown. The last 1 vs 3 minigame, it's like the opposite of that pesky one-sided minigame from Mario Party 1, where one player is trapped in a slow Bowser costume, while the others have to gang up and bash all the coins out of them. This one gives each of the 3 players 10 coins to start off with, as the single player has to bash as many coins out of these 3 players. If the 3 players have any coins left over the end, they still get to keep it. This minigame is more fun if you're the one with the hammer, but at least the bash victims can get rewarded for doing a good job at dodging attacks. It's okay, plus the hammer controls are a lot faster and less sluggish in this one compared to Mario Party 1. On to 2 vs 2. It was always a mixed bag. There are some of these I really like and some of these I don't like. Rocky Rope Race is actually a good start. It's a fun one where each player takes turns swinging across one bar, and we have to keep relying on swinging off one over the other to reach the goal. You gotta wait for your teammate to entirely grab onto the next bar, for if you let go without them holding onto a bar, both of you will fall and you'll have to respawn. It requires good timing, and it's pretty hard to fail at this one. I overall enjoyed it. Pickin' Produce is another fun one where each team member is split between 3 conveyor belts as we have to sort apples, bananas, and watermelons into their respective slots. This event requires teamwork as we sometimes get a fruit that our teammate needs, but they can't reach, and so we have to pass it down the middle conveyor belt for our teammate to reach. It's overall a fun, fast-paced sorting game. Prime Cut is another fun one. It's kind of held back by its dim-witted and uncooperative CPU. I've never lost this event, but it made me nervous due to my partners making really stupid decisions. I'm just lucky the opposing team are even dumber. This one has each team member holding on one end of a giant saw, as we have to line up and try cutting 3 pieces of steak perfectly in half, and whoever gets the closest to 50% on each steak wins. Not only is the game fun, but holy crap, that is the tastiest, most realistic steak I've ever seen rendered in a video game. Just look at the hot grease and the way it wobbles as you cut it. Give these programmers and artists a raise. Dory Pedal Paddle, another overused 2 vs 2 concept that's been done to death. A boat race that requires each teammate to steer one side of the boat to finish a race. Very similar to a Mario Party 4 minigame, but with less pesky obstacles, and you're forced to use motion controls. Luckily, playing without motion controls allows you to skip this one. Robo Arm Wrestle, an even dumber motion control minigame that requires rapidly shaking the Joy-Con to win a robotic arm wrestling contest. It's boring and tiring. Two-Axis Taxi, it's a pretty fun one where each teammate operates a different part of a car, where one person is in charge of driving forward and backward, while the other for left and right. We have to drive around obstacles and reach the finish line first. I actually really like this one. Jump the Gun, a surprisingly unique one. One player fires bullet bills at these targets to create platforms, as the other partner is relied to hop across them as the shooter guides our partner to the goal. It's overall pretty fun. I can imagine people in real life, like if one thinks that they're better at platforming than the other, I could see them like trading controllers during this part, so they make sure that they get it done with a guy who actually knows how to platform. Defuse or Lose. It's a chaotic one. I think this is from Mario Party 5, where a bunch of fuses connected to a King Bob-omb start lighting up, and each team has to spread out and ground pound on the fuses to put them out, but they keep reigniting over time, and so if King Bob-omb blows up, the other team will win. So yeah, I love this one in Mario Party 5, and I still do. Matchmakers. Each teammate grabs a card, and they have to find a matching pair to progress to the next room of a dungeon, till they find the exit. It's a pretty fun race. Shadow play. Each teammate needs to match a shadow by merging two shapes together until it matches the shadow on the picture. It's a fun competition. Tricky turntable. This is one that seems like a fun idea, but it's ruined by the CPU with their dead brain cells. We have a four-sided wheel with coins and bob-ombs on each side, and each player can jump on a switch that will rotate the wheel one space. And we try collecting the most coins while avoiding the bob-ombs. Sometimes our partners are too uncooperative, as they either step on the switch or step off of it when you got the perfect number lined up for getting the most amount of coins or avoiding the bob-ombs. And so, yeah, a lot of the times the CPU, especially your own teammate, they ruin what could have been a perfect chance. The CPU are not the brightest, they refuse to move, and even when a bob-omb is heading right for them, they still refuse to move. I can imagine this one is more fun with friends, but from a single-player perspective, it is annoying. Coin Corral, an annoying motion controller required one, where one teammate has to swing the Joy-Con in circles, and they have to let go to lasso a chest, as our partner has to be responsible for pulling in the Joy-Con so they can pull in the chest. Now, when I first played this, I did not realize it was 2 versus 2. I thought I had to swing the Joy-Con forward to fling the lasso onto the chest. Instead, it kept me swinging. It took that lunge forward as another swing. But all I had to do was just stop swinging in circles, and that automatically has them fling the rope. So I also thought the player right beside me was stealing all the chests I tried getting. But after a while, I realized, oh, this is a 2 versus 2 minigame. That person wasn't stealing my chests, they were reeling them in for me. So I honestly question why this wasn't a 4 versus 4 minigame. Either way, it's pretty boring. So I loved most of the duel minigames from Mario Party 3, but a lot of the ones in this, they are decent, but the first two, on the other hand, ugh. Fast Fishing is a simple quick draw clone where we have to wait for our bobbers to sink, and we swing the Joy-Con to reel in a fish. The loser reels in a can. It's very generic and overdone, and it did not need motion controls. Slappy Go Round is another real stupid one where we have to either ground pound to swing a giant hand at our opponent, or we have to wait in suspense so we can try jumping over the hand in case our opponent ground pounds on it. So, often enough, I don't even bother waiting. I just keep spamming ground pound, and usually I win. I can imagine it is tougher on harder difficulties or with actual players. It's basically just a stupid game of chicken. Either way, the event sucks. Stone Eye Bowling. This is actually my favorite duel minigame. We need to align a giant boulder to row it down a hill and bowl over these stone tikis. However, there's a lot of sand slopes blocking the path, and we need to rely on physics to predict how these bumps will change the course of the ball's direction. And somehow I've won all 3 times I played this event, and I still enjoy it every time. Fuzzy Heights. We move up these tubes to reach the highest height within a time limit, but we have to avoid the trails of fuzzies in our way. It's a pretty fun race. All the Marbles, the last duel minigame, and it's a pretty good one. A fun race as we have to push through a bunch of marbles. It's best to try squeezing through the ones that have the least crowded gaps to get through faster. It's overall pretty fun, but it's sad how there's not a whole lot of duel minigames in this. Now on to item minigames. This is some of the worst collection of item minigames I've ever seen. I actually enjoyed some of the ones from Mario Party 2 or 3. This one's less punishing though, because in Mario Party 2 or 3, it was easy to lose the mini games and you get nothing. This one, if you do manage to not do a very good job, you'll at least get a lower ranked item that can still help you out in some form. So Roll With It is another dumb tilt puzzle. It requires motion controls where we tilt the Joy-Con to steer a ball towards the prize we want. It's pretty generic. Prize Line, a roulette event where we have to stop at the right time to try to line up with the zigzaggy path that will lead to a prize we want. It's very generic and can rely on both luck and timing. A Stone's Throw, the easiest one in the game, where I've never failed at this one when it comes to trying to get the item I'm aiming for. So there's a gauge that requires us to slide a curling stone, and we have to try to have it land on the item we want. Flip and Find, it's a match 2 memory game where we have to flip over these cards and try to get a match, and so you can't lose this one, so whichever item you get a first match of, that's the item you get. So it's not great, but it's one of the less annoying item games. Price Drop, it's just a Plunko machine. Seriously, what kind of people outside of Japanese gambling addicts actually like Plunko machines? A new group of minigames called Showdown minigames come from a new party mode feature involving the buddy system. Now, the buddy system was introduced in both Mario Party Star Rush and Super Mario Party, and they were pulled off a lot better in those games. In Super Mario Party, we could collect a number of partners we met across the board, as they assisted us in giving us extra dice rolls, and even backed us up in certain mini-games. It was a fun and addicting race to collect as many allies as we could. Jamboree really kills the system with very annoying limitations and restrictions. Only a few characters can be buddies in this game, unlike Super Mario Party where every playable character could be a buddy. The only ones that can be buddies in this are Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, Wario, Waluigi, Donkey Kong, Rosalina, Yoshi, and Bowser Jr., making most of the characters non-teamable for this. These buddies rarely ever spawn on the maps, and they last only for 3 turns, so if you don't reach them within 3 turns, they go away. There are certain times where the characters spawn, and it's impossible for any players to reach them in time, even with dice power-ups that allow them to move multiple spaces. Reaching the buddies is very unrewarding. They just give whoever reached them 5 coins, and they force everyone to play a very lengthy minigame that can sometimes last up to 7 minutes, I'm not kidding. Whoever wins these minigames gets to collect the buddy to join them. Whoever first bumped into the buddy gets a head start advantage, though. They either get free points ahead of time, or they might even get an item to help them out. Each buddy has exclusive abilities, like rewarding a player with coins before each dice roll, or placing a space that can steal coins from other players and such. Luigi is the most useless buddy, for he has a 50-50% chance of adding 1 extra number to your dice roll. So winning a buddy feels very underwhelming. It can equally help us as much as it screws us over. Landing on any space can double how many coins you either win or lose. It can allow us to buy 2 items at a store at once, and we can win 2 items on item spaces or trigger 2 luck events on luck spaces. However, it can cause you to get twice as amount of stuff lost when you land on Bowser space. So if you lose a star, that means you lose 2 stars. If you lose coins, it means you lose double the amount of coins. So players can also steal our buddies by walking past us, and the partners only stick around with us for 3 turns. It really sucks. They took one of the most fun and rewarding gimmicks in Super Mario Party, and they totally killed it. So how do the Showdown minigames with these buddies hold up? So Mario's is called Mario's 3-Peat, where Mario hosts a marathon of 3 remade minigames from past games, including Leaf Leap from Mario Party 5, Bumper Balls from Mario Party, and Shy Guy Says from Mario Party 2. Whoever wins the best 2 out of 3 wins. I'd overall love this gauntlet if it weren't for Shy Guy Says. I never liked that minigame. I might have liked it better if it just got faster as the game went on, but I can't stand it when the Shy Guy pulls out the fake out flags, and it doesn't give us enough time to actually wait it out to make sure he's done with the fake outs. So it feels like it takes dumb luck to win. So 2 out of 3 minigames in this gauntlet are decent, but I'd rather have had just Leaf Leap and Bumper Balls be their own separate minigames. Luigi Rescue Operation is a series of puzzle-filled mansion rooms. The first to reach the top wins. The first room involves having to line up 3 pieces to form a picture. The second room involves finding the odd statue out. Room 3 forces us to run across floor tiles to match a password on a wall. Room 4 requires us to push barrels across a room to clear a path. The next 4 rooms are just a repeat of the first 4 floors, but with an elevated difficulty. The The final floor is overwhelming as we see these 5 symbols that glow one after the other on the floor. And for first-time players, this part might get confusing. But what you're supposed to do is memorize those floor patterns, and you're supposed to run over to a typewriter at the top left. And we have to type in a password based on those floor symbols that glowed first. This part is overwhelming due to how many symbols there are on the typewriter, which can make it kind of hard to find the symbols you're looking for, not to mention how you have to memorize the patterns by hand, and since a lot of them are kind of similar looking, it might take some time. Luckily, the floor patterns do slowly repeat themselves, and you're allowed to back out of the typewriter to re-look at the symbols. Even if you already typed in a few of the correct keys, but you accidentally type in an incorrect key, it still keeps in the correct keys you've already typed in, so it doesn't force you to have to start the whole password over, luckily. Usually I'm able to memorize the first 3 patterns, but just to be safe, what I usually do is back out and then I look at the last 2, and instead of waiting for them to re-shine, I just try picking one of the 2 over the other until one of them activates. I feel like that's a quicker way to wrap it up. So this is overall a fun series of puzzles, but it's held back by going on way too long. It really needed a time limit because I've competed with both CPU and online players, and they always seem to get stuck during the final room. It's a fun idea, but it's squandered by its length. Peach's Day Off is almost a collection of minigames I love, but the one in the middle ruins this whole collection. The first one involves carrying Peach's shopping luggage as we hold stacks of presents, each worth 3 points. We have to carry them to the other side while avoiding getting tripped by beetles. Each trip causes us to lose 1 present, and so I usually made it to the end with only 0 or 1 hits, while the CPU usually are left with 0 to 2 presents left over. The second event is the worst, being another one of those choice minigames where if more than one player picks the same plate of donuts. Again, these minigames suck. There's so many times where I felt like picking the plate with the most donuts was too obvious, so I tried picking one with a smaller amount of donuts, only for the CPU to pick the exact same one I was picking, meaning I wasted an opportunity to collect the most donuts. And honestly, I usually win this just by collecting the plates with the most donuts, because the CPU seemed to be too stupid enough to pick the obvious choice. So the final event has us loading up firework cannons as Peach has us fetch the certain shaped gems that are scattered across the field. She does abruptly change the gems every once in a while, so the first and third minigames aren't bad, but that second one in the center really kills this event for me to where I groan whenever this minigame gets picked. Daisy's Field Day actually isn't bad. It's a platforming collectathon as we run around, hop across platforms in these water-themed obstacle courses, trying to collect the most flower medals, with the pink ones being worth 3 points. The first one has us hopping across these log pillars that rise out of the water as we try not to bump into other players. The second one has us hopping over these sliding and rotating platforms. The third one has us leaping over a conveyor with these scrolling netted obstacles that we have to jump over or dodge. And the final one has us running over a giant rotating wheel that occasionally changes directions. Compared to the previous 3 Showdown minigames I've already discussed, this is one that I really enjoy, and I don't groan whenever it pops up. Wario's Buzzer Beater is a long and tiring quiz show with too many puzzling questions that pop up, including spotting the odd image out of these fast rotating images, finding the exit to a maze, guessing which piranha plant is the longest, finding which spot will protect Wario from bullet bills, saying which space Wario will land on after a dice roll, and counting how many coins appear on the screen at once. This could have been a decent minigame if it only lasted 3 or 4 questions, but it really drags on way too long, which makes me dread the minigame whenever it's picked. Junior's Jauntlet is the hardest one in the game, mostly involving Junior summoning very hard to dodge enemies and obstacles that attack us. Any round won without getting hit earns that player a point. There's a few safer rounds involving collecting certain fruit or chasing a Shy Guy to pop his balloons. Most often enough, no one is able to score a point in this game. It's like everyone gets hit within each round. The final challenge seems impossible, where Junior steps into the arena with his clown car as he goes berserk, speeding around with boxing gloves and tries punching us out. I have yet to see a single game where there's one player standing. Bowser Jr. is just way too fast. It's like nearly impossible to beat him during his final phase. DK's Conga Line is almost a good minigame, but it's ruined by, say it with me folks, It's ruined by dragging on way too long. It's a rhythm minigame inspired by Donkey Konga, where we play bongos to DK's beat with the L and R buttons. It's honestly better than any of the rhythm minigames here, especially since it doesn't require motion controls, but if only it was a quarter of the minigame's length, I would have really liked this one. It sucks how Rosalina's Radical Race is the only one that you can play with motion controls. It's a shame that if you're playing with regular controllers, that means that you will not be able to have Rosalina partner up with you, and you won't be able to play what's otherwise a pretty fun minigame ruined by motion controls. This minigame has absolutely no reason to require motion controls. It easily could have just been played with a joystick and a jump button. It's basically just the snowboarding gameplay from Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games, but with even more unresponsive controls. It's a snow hill race as we jump off ramps for speed boosts, and we try steering over speed boost pads to get a boost, obviously. I get that Nintendo is jealous that Disney made Elsa strongly resemble Rosalina, but now it feels like Nintendo is copying off Frozen by giving Rosalina a snow-themed event. Are they forgetting that she's a princess of the stars, not snow? The final act is a great tribute to Mario Kart's Rainbow Road, as the snow road starts getting more dreamlike as it lifts us into the heavens with rainbow-colored snow. It's overall a fun and pretty race, but it's ruined by the motion controls. Yoshi's Mountain Race is my all-time favorite showdown event. It's a platforming race as we ride on the backs of Yoshis. He even has his flutter jump, and yes, Yoshi can even play this event by riding on the back of another Yoshi. Any fan of the 3D Mario games should enjoy this race. It's very fun and very easy. Never once did I fall off of the track. I've won every single race, including playing this game online. And I was shocked by how many players actually fell behind by falling short of jumps and having to run back and all around to get back on track. I'm usually terrible when it comes to playing games online with others. And so it felt good to, for once, be the one who was not messing up. It really gives me Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy 2 vibes when it comes to riding Yoshi. And I love playing this minigame the most. It has a decent length too. It's not too short and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a good balance. Definitely my favorite showdown boss in this game. Waluigi's Pinball Arcade is a pinball competition. It's overall fun, but it requires too much luck and skill to win. So if you don't like pinball or you're not very good at pinball, you're not going to like this minigame. On to the boss games. Dragon Eel Slayers has us dodging Cheep Cheep and Pufferfish and whirlpools as we collect Koopa shells and fire them at the Dragon Eel. It's overall a fun introduction to the boss fights. Mega Stingby Stonkers is the worst boss fight in the game. We have to keep hopping up platforms, get over the giant bee and ground pound him over and over. It's long and boring. Mega Rocky Wrench Wreckers is an arcade shooter where we have to wait for the mole to pop out of the silo as we fire shots at him, as we deflect small and big wrenches that he and his mole minions throw. There are better shooter minigames out there. It sucks how you only have enough time to shoot the mole 2 or 3 times at once before he pops back into his hole. So, not the best shooting game. Boss Sumo Bro Blitzers is a time-limited rotating puzzle, as the Sumo Bro zaps a connection for our electric-powered cannons. We have to rotate the pipes to connect from the generator to the cannons. Whoever fixes their connection first gets more points when firing at the boss. And whoever can't get theirs fixed in time, they'll get struck by lightning and lose a point. It's frantic and puzzling, but fun. The final boss fight is Bowser Crashers. We ride on jet boards as we dodge IB's attacks. We charge our attacks and blast into IB. I wish this was an arcade space shooter instead. The requirement of having to charge to physically ram IB gets old really fast. Now, onto the Koopathlon events. Noggin Knock is a game of whack-a-mole where we whack the moles and avoid the bob-ombs. It's simple, overdone, but still fun. Brick Breaker is a simple game of bricks as we bounce the ball, or Koopa shell in this case, upward and smash as many bricks as we can. Each brick is worth 1 coin. And there's a lot of fun power-ups to collect to help us out with this. It's a fun one. Golden Brown. We wait for baked goods to get cooked right, and then we pull them out before they get burned. Each one that we pull out successfully is worth a coin. It's fast-paced, simple but okay. Spike's Gambit. We run up the sandy slopes and collect coins while jumping over and dodging the spiky rollers that the spikes throw at us. It's overall fun. Down the Hatch. A really fun one where we play an arcade game where we have to push these plush prizes into a hole. This is my favorite Koopathlon event. Sky High Cannons. It gets old pretty quick as we aim and fire ourselves out of cannons to collect coins. Which door has more is a fun race as we crawl through dungeons that have 2 doors at the end, each with a picture of an enemy on it. So each room is full of 2 different enemies. We have to go through the doors that match which enemies there are more of on this room. It's fun and frantic. Coin Conveyor, a puzzle minigame where we drag a drop tile to make a full line to clear and get points off of. It's a simple CV4 puzzle game, but it's still fun. Lane Change, it's a fast vehicle race as we keep changing lanes to collect coins while dodging obstacles. It's fun for speed junkies. Now on to the 20-player IB minigames. Burning Bridges, just a simple event of jumping over fireballs. It's pretty basic. Castle Hassle. We run away from IB as we try dodging falling iron balls and try not to fall through holes in the floor. It is very tough and frantic. Sleight of Shell is a simple shuffle minigame where we pay attention to the spinning treasure chest and we try picking the ones that don't have bob-ombs in it. It's pretty tricky. Fire Away. We mash the A button to repeatedly climb a pole to avoid rising lava while trying to avoid bullet bills. It's very similar to the abandoned ship minigame from Mario Party 2. The floor is falling. Avoid trapdoors once again. It's pretty challenging. On to the team missions in the Kaboom Squad mode. Juiceworks has the 9 players split into 3 teams. The first team is tasked with collecting apples, while the second team is tasked with bottling up the apple juice, and the third team is for loading up the boxes onto the truck. Every time I played this event, I was always stuck with the box loading duty, and I kept getting stuck with the brain-dead CPU who kept blocking my path instead of simply moving out of the way so I could help out. As I tried running around them to deliver the boxes, they just kept blocking my path. It got really annoying. Ball Volley. We work together to bounce the volleyballs and press A at the right time for the volleyballs to be passed to the next player as we try to pass the ball down to the goal. It's simple but fun. Ballistic Bingo, a dumb minigame involving us aiming cannons at giant bingo cards, and we have to try to get as many horizontal or straight line bingos as we can. This is the only mission where no matter how many times I played it, the CPU were not cooperative enough to get an S rank. I always had a good idea of, where to aim. I always went for the golden ones that are worth more points, and the CPU, it just felt like they were shooting in random directions instead of trying to line up straight lines. So it just made me feel like I was surrounded by idiots. Bath Bob-ombs is a fun tower defense game as we scatter around the place trying to collect these bob-ombs that are heading towards the gate, and we have to throw them into the water before they end up destroying the gate. So I have a feeling that most players will enjoy this one the most. They will have a blast with it, no pun intended. Chomp Wash, a fun one where one player is tasked to aim and fire a hose to wash chain chomps, while the other 8 players are tasked with plugging up leaks on the water pipes to keep the hose running. I've never played as the one holding the hose before, but I had a lot of fun running around fixing the pipes. Puzzle Pandemonium, so each player runs around to gather these giant puzzle pieces, and we have to place them in the correct spot to form an image. It's overall fun. Look This Way, we have to tilt the joystick to match the direction of these changing arrows. This event wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the unpredictable fake outs, and they don't allow you to take back any false moves. So like if you face in one direction before the fake out corrects itself, it doesn't allow you to correct your own movement either. So yeah, it's one I don't care for. Ski Daddle, a boring one where we have to alternate between L and R at the right rhythm to mimic a wiggler's walking. I honestly did not care for this one. Trading Card. Before I continue with this minigame, I just want to mention that I caught a mistake upon rewatching this footage. So earlier, I could have sworn that this mode was 9 players. But looking back at the footage, I realized, no, this is an 8-player mode. So yeah, I apologize for all the times I said 9 players. I meant to say 8, sorry. So each player has cards with a number from 1 to 9, and they're in a scrambled order as we have to pass our cards down so we can organize it from left to right, 1 to 9. The CPU are pretty brain dead at this event, sometimes passing the wrong card in the wrong direction. It makes a pretty fun idea pretty annoying. Match That Item. A pesky roulette mission that requires everyone to stop a roulette on the same image. It's pretty lame. Finally, the rhythm games. Some of my least favorite minigames in this. They're not as bad as the luck-based minigames, but they're all basically the same boring thing. So, Soup Troupe. We have to cut vegetables to a rhythm by swinging our Joy-Con. This minigame would have worked so much better if it wasn't rhythm-based and just relied on good timing. The same could be said about all these rhythm games. Parfait Course. It's a rhythm-based baseball game as we have to swing these giant spoons to hit fruits into these pitchers. If only this were based on regular timing and not rhythm. Whipped cream. We have to rapidly spin our Joy-Cons to stir falling whipped cream. At this rate, I'm not even going to bother saying what I think of these since they all suck. Spread in butter. We swipe the Joy-Cons sideways to smear butter on bread. Short stacked chef. We have to flip pancakes to the rhythm. This was one of the most frustrating, for I just couldn't find or feel the rhythm in this one, so I kept either prematurely flipping or burning my pancakes. On the beat, we dig up vegetables at the right time. This one was one of the least annoying ones for me. On Barb, we skewer ingredients by thrusting the Joy-Cons. Copycat Curry, it's a pretty easy one where we shake the Joy-Cons to season curry with giant shakers. Foot-long Frenzy, another hard to time one, as we have to wait for 4 ingredients to align in place, as we have to push the Joy-Con forward so we can sandwich them between buns. I kept messing up on this one. Burger Builders is another one of the few that were pretty easy for me to master. We pile burger ingredients by flipping the Joy-Con at the right time. And that was Mario Party Jamboree. It has some fun board maps and side features, but disappointing unlockables. They ruined the buddy system, and it's got a real mixed bag of minigames, with some pretty good ones, but a lot of long, boring, and frustrating and flawed motion-controlled ones. Some of these are some of the worst minigames I've ever seen in Mario Party history. It is indeed not the best Mario Party. It's not even the best one on Switch, but it does hold up over some lesser entries. Like, I honestly wasn't a big fan of the board or minigame selection in games like Mario Party 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, Island Tour, Top 100, Advance. I do think Jamboree has some of the best board maps we've seen since Mario Party 8. I was never a fan of the board maps that come out in nearly every game since then. They either had boring visuals or annoying gimmicks. The racetrack course is the only one I absolutely couldn't stand in this game. Well, I felt mixed about Mario's Rainbow Castle. So overall, I give Super Mario Party Jamboree a 7 out of 10. It is a fun game to play with friends, I can imagine, but there's still stuff to enjoy for single players. I haven't had any real bad issues with online play. Like, at worst, I've had like it disconnect on me during the waiting room, but usually during gameplay, I didn't suffer from real drastic lag unlike most other Switch games. That's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching. See you next time, and have a great day.